Hi, it's Evelyn again. I'm back with what will hopefully be the final part of this uh, picture. This is an illustration by Emily Illustrations, and it is called Recycled Fairy House, and it's adorable. And I am murdering it with Inktense. I have said before, this is like the first time I've ever done a full picture with Inktense, so I am not going to be perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I am learning, and I promised I would show you my successes and my fails. Well, this is not this, I have to admit, it's not turning out bad, but it's not turning out as well as I had hoped. But I will let you guys be the judge as how bad it is. I am going to work on the item around the, what do you call these? The anti-heat wrapper around in the lid, and I am going to be using tan. And I discovered in the first part of this picture, since I have never really worked with Inktense, that it works best for me if I put them on a palette first, versus drawing directly on the picture. That did not work for me personally. So I am putting down a large quantity of this tan, since there's a large area. And I'm going to be using a larger brush. I have a little container of water. I do have water brushes. I have very little to no control whenever I squeeze the water brush. So I've elected to actually use a cup of water versus using the water out of the water brush. It's a personal choice. Maybe sometime in the future I will learn the tricks that I need to use the water brushes properly. But for now, better safe than sorry. I'm going to turn the picture. And the reason I'm using tan is these little wrappers are always tan. And I want to kind of make it a light tan, so that's what I'm hoping for. I may need to mute this out a little bit more, but we shall see. I'm just going to get my base layer color down. And as I said, I promised to show you my successes and fails. So this one's not really a fail, but it's turning out cute. I think it's turned out cute. I need to practice some more. I just had a friend, well, I took a break and let the puppy dog out, and that tell me, well, there's a big learning curve on Inktense, and yeah, I'm learning that. It's not something because Inktense aren't exactly watercolors, although they use water to activate the ink. They're definitely not watercolors. I actually like how they lay a lot better than watercolors. Watercolors are not my friends. Although there's a learning curve on how to use them, and so if you are looking to buy Inktense, know that there is a definite learning curve to these, and you've got to learn what works best for you, and how they work. And that's what this whole journey is about. But although it's, as I said, it's not turning out bad. I have to admit, it's not turning out horrible. Not my usual amount of shading. I still have to work on learning how to shade with the Inktense, but not turning out too bad. It's not horrible, and I thought I would make a right royal mess of it, so I'm not displeased with how it's turning out. Of course, it's not done yet. I could totally screw it up here in the last little bit, and it would not be the first time that I got something almost done. And I think my biggest downfall is my backgrounds. Sometimes they work, and I have an idea and I go for it, and I look at it later and think, why the heck did you do that? Is something that I'm going to have to personally work on as my backgrounds. That's why I'm not sure if I will do a background on camera for this one, only because my backgrounds are kind of hit and miss sometimes. Hey, it's the fact of life. I can color with the best of them, but there are times whenever I have an idea and it just does not work. But it's all part of the learning process. And if we can't learn, if you think you know everything, then what's the point of living? I mean, you gotta try stuff that you may not be sure of, and if it doesn't work out, you say, okay, that didn't work out, let me try something different and see what you can come up with. That's the fun thing about coloring, is everybody's got different ideas of how things should look, how things should work, what works best for them, and it makes me very happy that people are willing to put themselves out and experiment. Not everything works out the way they planned, but hey, people are out there, and if you're new to this community, please don't hesitate to post your pictures or ask questions. This community is awesome with it. It's not like people are going to hide how they do stuff. They want to share their knowledge, what they found works to get different effects. And that's one of the reasons I love this community so much, is because people are more than willing to share their ideas, their well, this didn't work for me, and they'll tell you, there's not no one. Everybody has their own personal favorite pencil, personal favorite type of picture, and they're all different. If everybody liked just one type of pencil, then there wouldn't be hundreds of different brands and styles of pencils. It's same thing with paper. I know people that love a really toothy paper. I'm not a fan of super toothy paper. I want a little bit of tooth, but not too much tooth. But I have friends in this community that love super toothy paper. Just doesn't seem to work for me. But again, that's me. and I have, you gotta kind of try things out, and you asking somebody's opinion on what's their favorite pencil or paper is great, but keep in mind that whenever you ask and someone answers you, they'll answer you, but keep in mind that it may be their favorite, but it may not end up being your favorite. Point of fact, everyone, it seems like a majority of the community loves Pablos, which are a wax based, especially formulated wax based pencil made by Corinne Dash, and I couldn't work with them. No matter what I tried, I could not work with them. I ended up giving them to a friend who's also my cousin, and she absolutely loves them. So, something that works for me may not work for you, and that's the beauty part of this coloring. It's an individual that you have the coloring community in common, but not everything works for everybody. It's all, you can take someone's recommendation, but know that you may get the same pencil and they just don't work for you. And I don't want to discourage anyone from trying something new just because somebody says, "Oh, well, I don't like them." I have several pencils that I own that I don't care. I have them. I don't care. I don't use them very often because they don't give me the results I'm looking for, and that's the key. And whenever I use them, I don't have fun, and that's the key. I mean, coloring is not supposed to be serious business. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to give you a sense of escape from the everyday stresses. And if you're stressing out about whenever you color, then maybe coloring's not for you. But if you can just get lost in a picture and forget all your worldly cares for a little bit, then good for you. That's what this whole thing is for, is to give you a sense of you relax and enjoy yourself for a little while. And I think most people feel that way. Coloring is not a profession. It's just a fun, relaxing thing to do, and not everyone feels the same way about the same product. And if they did, then we wouldn't have the mass quantity and quality from inexpensive pencils to very expensive pencils. It's what works for people. Not everybody's the same, and the whole point of the coloring, doing adult coloring, is to relax, enjoy yourself, have a good time. Although I admit right now I'm a little stressed at how this picture is turning out. But then again, I'm doing it on camera, and it's not turning out badly, but it's not turning out exactly the way I had envisioned it whenever I started. But then again, most of my pictures don't. I have one vision where I start, and it morphs into something totally different. It takes on a life of its own. And that's another good thing about coloring, adult coloring, is kind of, you can take it takes on a life of its own. And it's something that you can do if you've got 10 minutes of time to yourself that you want to kick back and do some coloring, or if you've got hours. And it just you just gotta go with the flow and make it enjoyable. Enjoy yourself. I guess that's the key that I'm trying to get across, is you just have to enjoy yourself. If you're doing this adult coloring, and whenever you were a child, coloring in coloring books with crayons, I'm sure you never thought that you'd be an adult coloring and that, but it is actually a wonderful stress relief. I sit down if I'm having a really bad day. I'll try to color for at least 10 minutes every day. Sometimes I scrap those pages that I start or work on whenever I'm having a really bad day, because you can tell whenever I'm having a really bad day, because what I color is dark and brooding and but it's getting out my stress. That I guess is the main thing. It's letting my stress free, getting out the stress for and that. And that's the whole point. Make this something that you enjoy, that you can take a little bit of time to do for yourself, and in the end you've got a nice piece of artwork. Even if you do not display it, you end up with a nice piece of artwork. That's another question I get asked quite a bit. What do you do with your finished pictures? And I have binders with most of my colored pictures in. And I say most because a couple of them are hanging in frames on the wall. I have framed a few that I'm very proud of, they have a meaning for me. There's actually a couple hanging I've given to friends that they've asked for. I wouldn't sell them because it's not technically my art, it's just my hobby. Not doing it for money. So, but if a friend asks for one or asks me to color a picture specifically for them, sure, why not? Although those always seem to be a little more difficult for me, is the ones that people ask me to do for them, because I get really stressed whether they're going to like what I've done. But that's the nature of the beast. So I mainly color for myself. I'm sorry. That was tan. And I'm going to go one color up to saddle brown. Another awesome color. I like all the colors in the Inktense. And that's one of the reasons why it's like I really need to use them, because I like the colors. I actually generally like the colors. I just need to learn how to use them. Again, staying with the same brush. The saddle brown is just a slight darker color. Got a little more red to it than the tan does. way too much ink in there. It's not. I want shading, but I don't want to overpower. Got a little too hefty with the ink. There. It's more like what I wanted. That's another thing about Inktense, that you can add more or less water to get the color that you're looking for. I just need to learn to properly use it. I am far from an expert on Inktense, and I'll be the first to admit that, but I'm trying, I'm learning, and that's all we can do in life is try and learn. Trying to get a little more shading going here on this cup. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Going back in with the saddle brown, picking up a little darker, more intense. Coming around and doing that lip. Just have a dry brush. I didn't pick up any new color. I'm trying to blend out, maybe pick up a little bit, blend out so it's not quite a harsh line there. Yeah, I'm getting pretty happy with this. And I'm keeping in mind that this is going to be a little weathered look, because it's been sitting out. It's recycled. Somebody threw this away, and it's been sitting out in the weather, and it's going to be a little weathered. Okay, now I'm going to let this dry a little bit. Onto the mallard, I think I'm going to do mallard green. Let me see if I can find it here. That's teal. Now where is this one? There you go. And this is a blue green. Okay. And I want this light, so I'm going to add quite a bit of water to it, so it's a really washed out color, kind of green. it's a kind of a blue-green bottle the flowers sitting in. I'm thinking like an old, almost depression. Well, no, depression glass is really, green, kind of like a lime green, but that old glass look. Okay, wash out my brush. And I discovered something, Inktense stains. It has stained my palette, so if you're worried about your palette being stained, don't. Inktense is gonna stain your palette. Didn't realize it was gonna stain my palette. But you know, it's a palette. It doesn't cut. If it doesn't come off the palette, it's not going to mix in with anything else that you put on the palette. Do a little bit of shading on this glass. Almost got too much water mixed all through this paint, so I kind of want the pale look. So, see how this turns out here. And I guess the Inktense are, as I said, it definitely has a learning curve to it, and I am still learning. And you're seeing me learn on video. You know, so that's we're not all experts on everything. There's a reason why I don't use markers. You will I don't use markers to color. I use them as background. But I've not done a full picture in markers because, frankly, I'm a little afraid of that. I am not too proud to admit that I'm a little bit afraid. I'm going to go back to the original mid vermilion that I used for my cup. That's why I turned the pencil around so I knew what color I used. I'm going to pick up a little bit more color. Tried to get a little shading using the same color. But I wanted to kind of dry out the picture, or have the picture a little drier than what it was. It was just soaking in. And I'll be honest, I'm really kind of surprised how well the Nina paper is holding up to the amount of water that I put on. I mean, I'm not soaking the page, but I have used a significant amount of water on it. And for not being watercolor paper, I'm really impressed with how well it's holding up. I'm very happy with it. And I have Shannon Choppenhayes to thank for turning me on to the Nina paper. She highly recommended it, and I thought, well, I might as well try it out. And it's something that I'm glad I did, because I'm liking how it's holding up. It holds up to pencil. I'm liking how it is holding up to these Inktense. So I would add my recommendation along with Shannon's to this paper. I know Emily also uses it. It's not a toothy paper. If you like toothy paper, it's not a toothy paper. By any stretch of the imagination, it is not a toothy paper. It is most definitely a low tooth to almost no tooth paper. One side is more toothy than the other. So, you can, but neither side has got a lot of tooth in it. So if you're liking a toothy paper, the Nina paper is not for you. But it's got more of a tooth, you can feel the difference than like regular copy paper. A little spot that I missed on the cup lid here. Also notice that I did not do this stem. So let's get a nice green going here, darker green, because stems always seem to be darker than the flowers. Or the leaves that are on them. Mixing up some green. Let's see if everyone can stay in the lines. And that was, I'm sorry, beach green. That I'm using now to do the stem. That's the advantage. As I said, this is the advantage over the Inktense and watercolor. If I was doing watercolor by putting color over the top, it reactivates the color underneath it, so it blends. The Inktense, once it's dry, does not blend. You can put color over the top of it and really now while it's wet you can blend, but not once it's dry. You can, it's a permanent ink, and it does not erase. So be careful if you do not drop this on your clothing, because it is a permanent ink. Take part of that, miss part of the cup underneath there. Okay. I'm gonna go back in with that darker brown that I used, which is saddle brown. Had to look what I used. Sorry. I'm going to get a kind of a thick, make it thick and dark. page. What I'm doing is pulling some of the water I have on my palette. It's already mixed with this brown into the dry to make it a darker color, making it more intense. I shouldn't say darker. The amount of water definitely affects the intensity of the color. So you can have this, use the same color for shading actually by making it more intense. I've got quite a bit of water in this area since I already just painted. I'm gonna take some of this, just drop more water, bring it in, using this darker brown, thin it out just a little bit. Okay. Okay, where am I gonna go? Now I gotta do the grass. And I'm gonna put down the smaller brush. And I think this is apple green. I'm gonna put quite a bit down on my palette. A large area. Because I'm going to be doing the grass area. And yes, I'm putting the pencils back on the pencil case, but I'm not putting them back in their slot whenever I put them back over here. That way I know what color I'm working on, because I don't like having to reach up. I'm weird. I like to keep my pencils in the case, and these are actually in the tin that they came in. That's a pretty color. Now if I can keep that consistent. Of course, then again, grass is not always. Apple green definitely has yellow in it. Yellow you're seeing is not me putting yellow down and mixing it. It's the yellow that's in the green itself. I'm gonna squeeze my brush and get a dot more water. Bring in some of the dry material and mix it to make that ink. Ooh. See if I can kind of cover up where I boo-booed on the door and put red on the ground. You could always say it's just a blotch of paint that fell while they were painting the door. You can always make up a story to cover any mistakes. And unless you tell somebody it was an actual mistake, unless it's blatant, like a big red splotch under the door, Um, that's a nice thing. If you actually do make an error, you know, it's like, no, that's the way I meant to color it. That's my interpretation. My favorite saying is, your art, your rules. There's no right or wrong. There's just how you want to do it. Add a little bit in the water, and I didn't mean to do that, but yeah, big clump. That's okay. You can work with it. Just trying to get down a base layer of this green. Make it kind of smooth and grassy looking. And now my paper is actually beginning to buckle because I'm using quite a bit of water on this section. I've seen people do watercolors and Inktense, or they've actually taped down the painting, or the picture, the image, I should say, not the painting, the image, paintbrush, I think painting, and I turn my pages too much for that. I think that's the person that taught me how to or showed me how to do watercolors, taped it down, and you can't move it, you gotta keep it in a static position. I think that's kind of put me off on the watercolors to begin with. I'm much too fluid with how I process and do my art to have something stationary where I can't move it to get a proper angle to get the look I'm looking for. Okay. And although it's green and I can say, oh, it's done, I kind of want to add a little detail that, and I'm out of frame almost. I'm going to take that green we were using earlier, which is, I believe it was field green. Carried away there. It's too wet. It's not doing what I want it to do. Try that again. Yeah, it's too wet. And I don't want to pull out a hairdryer to dry it. It's way too wet. So I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm not really happy with the super gray rocks. The Payne's gray is great, but it's almost too gray. So I'm going to use, let's see, some saddle brown. Mixed with a little bit of oak. And a little bit of mustard. I put them all in the same space on my palette. I'm going to mix them together. And I'm just going to go in and kind of, well, it's not exactly the color I was going for, but it's make those rocks less brown or less blue gray, kind of make them more natural rock color. It's just making it darker. I can see the difference, but you guys can't. It's actually changing the color to a brown-ish gray. Yeah, it's not doing what I want it to do. I told you I'm trying all kinds of new stuff. Probably should have done this on the other side where the rock formation was not as big, but live and learn. Plus the paper is starting to give on it, I think, on this little area. I got the paper's way too wet. What I'll probably end up doing is putting a couple heavy books underneath this on top of this paper once it's dry, to kind of, or once I know the ink's more dry, and let the paper finish drying under to straighten it out. Or flatten it out. I shouldn't say straighten it out. Flatten it out. But we shall see. You can't really see it, but it did make that rock more brown instead of the blue-green that it was. On the screen it looks just black. And it's not just black, it's kind of a brownish gray. Okay, so I'm going to call this done. I'm still not sure. At this point, I'm not going to put a background on it. And anyway, no matter what I do, actually, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to take that yellow and redo. This is sun yellow. Pick up some of that and redo this window since it's not very bright. I didn't get good coverage on it. I was not happy with it. Wasn't a happy window. Darken up that yellow. Brighten up that yellow. Let's use some of that yellow. Make the area outside the door a little more yellowish. And I better stop before I totally destroy this picture, because I'm on the verge of just totally messing up, trying to put in more detail than what is possible at this point. The final picture may have a background to it. I'm not really sure. Probably not. But I am going to wait until it's dry before I take a final picture and post it. So, trying to look to see if there's anything I missed. Kind of like, yeah, it's pretty dry. Not happy with the red on the door. That's chili red. Again, cherry. This way. I'm going to go with hot red. The red on the door is not the red as I want it, so I'm going to go with hot red. I know I did this in a pink, dark pink. I'm not happy with the way it turned out, so I'm going to go back over it with a hot red. Make it a little brighter, happier. Red. This is my problem with coloring, is I go back and I keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, and sometimes I tweak it just out of being good. Oh yes, much better. I like that red door better. So I am going to call it done. Thank you for joining me on this journey of using Inktense for the first time, and I hope you enjoyed. Maybe you learned some major do nots with using Inktense. Maybe you learned some major do's. I don't know. So I hope you've enjoyed these 4 videos, and I will catch you on the flip side. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.